Welcome back to another episode of Ribs, Real Estate, and Ramblings. We are coming to you, as always, from Cooper's Old Time Pit Barbecue in Aggieland. Actually, that kind of works right there, doesn't it? This. Yeah, look at that. Here at College Station, it's right off the bypass. Let's say it till I'm blue in the face. When you come to College Station, come to Cooper's, get you some barbecue, fantastic people. So definitely stop by, put this on your list if you haven't been here yet. Today, I am joined by a very new former student, a new former. That's
new to the old crowd.
Yeah, you're the newest old guy.
Yeah,
now.
Newest old guy.
Yeah, there you go.
The youngest old guy.
The youngest old guy. Former Yell Leader, Fighting Texas A&M Class 2022, Memo Salinas, and really kind of the whole premise behind this is, first of all, in the state of Texas, the best way to sit down and shoot the bull is over some barbecue, right?
Amen.
Yeah. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I really want to showcase, the amazing people that are here in the Brazos Valley. Young, old, just whether it's with the university or not, and as a Yell Leader, as now both former Yell Leaders, that's what our job really is with the university and not, because just all the events and everything. So he was in Squadron 17.
There you go.
He's
going to have to do it at some point. Might as well get out of the way early.
But that's the best thing is I get to take a dig because I was one of the old knuckle draggers in Delta Company. So you really can't talk trash about us.
I guess that's fair. At least you know it, though.
Other than that we're old and knuckle draggers. You had a really unique time as a Yell Leader. And I'm going to get to like the COVID thing. Yeah, we won't dwell on it.
It's sour, but it is a big part of it.
We'll try not to be too depressing about it. But I kind of look back and I did as deep of a dive as you can do on someone that's a little bit younger. You don't have like there are a handful of Memo Salinas, by the way.
Really?
Yes, there are. But your decision to come to A&M, and I know that you come from a family of Aggies. I don't know if they're like all Aggies, but I know you come from a family of Aggies. And I was just kind of pouring through some of the interviews. And I saw something that was like it was mentioned in passing, but it felt like a really big part of your life. And the guy's name was, if I get this right, Guillermo Vela?
Yeah.
Last name Vela.
Yeah, Memo Vela, yeah.
Okay, or Memo.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And because I know that he kind of posed to you the challenge of being in the Corps, right? Was he the one that kind of talked you into the Corps?
It was a collaborative effort. I think there was a couple. I grew up always wanting to be in the Corps.
Okay.
For the longest time, you want to be exactly like your dad. And,
right, yeah.
I was brainwashed, or as my dad would say, raised right. And so for the longest time, I was raised right. I was raised right, exactly. Yeah. Which I have the same intentions one day of doing the exact same thing. Absolutely.
Everything's tradition.
And so, I wanted to be in the Corps until,
it got close to time to be in the Corps.
Yeah, exactly. Classic high school, in love with the easy way out and choosing what's most convenient came about, and kind of started to mention to my dad around my junior year, like, I don't know.
Still
the Corps is weird.
Calm down.
Trying to weasel my way out. Trying to weasel my way out, and really mainly because I just didn't want to be uncomfortable and didn't want to accept the challenge. Didn't want to do what was best for me, but not what was most convenient for me. So,
what are you, 16, 17 years old?
Yeah.
You obviously know everything.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Clearly.
And so, I think my dad started kind of reaching out to people that he knew had a way with me.
Listen to me.
Yeah, and he was like, all right, we're going to bring in some backup. And so one of them was Memo Vela, who was a big part of my whole family's life. He's one of my grandfather's best friends, and an Aggie, and somebody that my dad looked up to a lot.
So he's an older gentleman. Oh, so
class of 64.
Okay.
That's father.
That's like my dad's. Yeah, my dad's class 66. Well,
and so my father looked up to him a lot and was part of the reason why he joined the Corps, part of the reason why I was named Memo. And I always was very close to Memo Vela. We spent a lot of time growing up, going to the ranch and whatnot. And so he started to kind of mention to me, coincidentally, right around the time I started telling my dad, I don't know if I want to do this, telling me, hey, you really got to think about this. change your life would be one of the greatest things you've ever done. And I know that you think we're all just saying that, but I have nothing to gain from you doing this.
Right.
The fact that I'm spending time and energy wanting you to do this should say enough and spark enough in your mind to say, all right, this is something worthwhile. Now I catch myself doing the same thing, telling kids,
Challenge yourself.
Challenge yourself, do it. It's so worth it. Don't quit. It's the best thing you'll ever do. And so I guess we've gone full circle, and I guess it'll just, it's part of it, man. You know how it is. It's hard to explain, but there's beauty in that experience. A&M is beautiful, but I guarantee, and you can attest, somebody will see your Aggie ring, go, did you go to A&M? You say yes, and the second question always is, were you in the Corps Cadets? Always. And that in itself, I think, is something that's powerful and speaks volumes. So I'm glad that I did it. It was the best decision I ever made, and it led to all kinds of stuff. I wouldn't be right here right now if I didn't join the Corps. So
no, absolutely. That's I got to see kind of both sides of it in the sense. Well, I kind of have really almost three sides to it because my dad's class is 66, so I mean they were all in the Corps basically, back then, and then. My sister class at 95, she was a non-reg. Like she was just a regular student, normal student, went to college like everybody else in the nation does.
Yeah. Like my brother.
and then I was in the Corps, but I was in Delta Company. So I almost had I've had a more unique experience of the Corps just because of how Delta Company operates, obviously. But then they had the mentor program where we got to spend a lot of time with outfits, your regular outfits. So we really were, you got a good opportunity to see how Corps life is when you're not in Delta Company.
Absolutely.
When you're not old and or married.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously the Corps Cadets is, Texas A&M is fantastic. If your one decision you make is to go to Texas A&M, then you made the right decision. And if you decide to be in the Corps, then right on. If you decide not to be in the Corps again, Aggies are Aggies.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
And we talked about this, and obviously, a little bit of family of Aggies. So you kind of got screwed. By having to be yell leader during COVID. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like everybody got screwed by COVID. I understand that.
Yeah,
and
the whole world did.
Not putting it light.
It'd be selfish for me to say that the worst thing was, my poor me, my junior yell year got sabotaged. A whole lot of worse things happened that year, but I agree. I get what you're saying.
But within context of being a yell leader,
I agree.
It kind of sucked, and I know that there were just, so many things had to be different, and everything was just so weird, but being able to serve both years, and then you had your senior year where everything was normal, right? Nothing really affected at all.
Thank God.
Looking back, what do you take from that year when you guys were really having to do stuff? And yell leaders, right? Tradition, we do everything the same but looking back and seeing how dynamic that y'all had to be along with the athletic department, what do you draw from that experience?
Yeah. So it's interesting that you say that, but the way you started that was by saying you got screwed. And I'm not correcting you. 100%. I get
within context.
Within context, everybody's like, "Oh, you got screwed," and poor you, and that must have sucked. And what was that like? For starters, it was still awesome because I had wanted to do that for years, and it was still awesome. But something that I take away from all of it, and something that I think you and I have talked about before, and something that I think anybody in my shoes who's trying to climb the next ladder now, out of college, you're trying to climb the next ladder of life,
right?
Being a professional and working and trying to become a family, all of it.
Being an adult, I know.
Being an adult, which is the biggest scam in the history of scams ever, but it's inevitable. And so, you say you got screwed, but and this is not me being cheesy or in all reality, I really do. I'm thankful that it was that way because. That is like fake leadership. That is fake, and preface fake. You don't have bills. You don't have a kid or a wife. Nobody's depending on you. The sky's not falling if you're not able to meet whatever it is that is expected of you as a junior yell leader, right? Or if it doesn't meet the traditions
for those
of the ways.
For those of us that were junior yell leaders without a wife and kid.
Well, you understand what I'm saying.
So basically every other junior yell leader.
Except for Roy May.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is, there is a lot of good that came from it being, not what you expected or not what you thought it was going to be or more challenging than you ever thought it needed to be. That is what you want, in my opinion, as somebody who is, you do student leadership and you chase these, I say fake, but, nobody's going to die if you don't do your job as a junior leader. That's what I mean by fake. And so what I'm saying is you want things to kind of go wrong. You want things to be difficult. You want things to be challenging because that's the way that you probably learn the most. And so I look back at my junior year, and you learn so much of. For one, we learned so much about A&M and the people, and it sounds cheap, the 12th man. In all reality, that was ridiculous. I mean, we were playing Florida my junior year, and Dan Mullen gets out of the game. The first thing he says is, there must have been 100,000 people here. A&M's breaking the rules. They need to look into it. They're going to get fined. And, like, that spoke volumes about who and what Texas A&M is. We have every reason to not show up. They're making us freaking wear a mask in the damn stadium outside in 110-degree weather. You can't breathe as is in College Station humidity. They're making you wear a mask over it, and we're still impacted. Like, to me, that speaks volumes about who and what we are, right? We have every reason to say, the hell with it, I'm not going to show up. This sucks. I hate wearing a mask. I hate all of it, right? You have every excuse. Everything is right there for you to make an excuse, and through it all, continuously, we found a way around it. Whether it was Silver Taps, Aggie football, whatever it was, we kept finding a way to continue to do what we need to do to beat Texas A&M.
I don't want to say hardships, but that kind of unique circumstance for you was one thing. But there were also some kind of personal mountains to climb. Really, I guess would be a good way to put it. Personal like health issues, and I know I saw one thing about you had like mono. And
it was bad. That was like a strange occurrence for whatever reason. This one was borderline deadly. I was like, what is going on? Of course, of all people, I get mono, and it like damn near knocks me out.
When was this? When you were running for Yell? Or was
this is the first semester of my sophomore year. I was about to say pisshead year. My sophomore year.
You can say
pisshead is a sophomore in the core. My sophomore year, leading up to core block.
Okay. So like around that Halloween kind of time frame?
Right around in there. And was bad, man. I mean, I couldn't go to class.
So it's not like I have mono, I'm not going to go to class.
No. This is like, I can't get out of bed, couldn't breathe. I kept having to go back to the emergency room for steroids or whatever to get my throat to open back up so I could breathe.
This guy had like a killer strain.
Yeah, it was wild. I'm not, no joke, yeah. And the university had like contacted me basically and was like, hey, have you like considered like withdrawing for the semester because
getting healthy.
You have not gone to class in 2 months and you lost 30 pounds and like it was my old lady, which is your roommate in the Corps, Cullen Epwright, no joke, probably kept me alive. Like would wake me up and make me drink Gatorade, make me drink water, like force feed me, just shovel whatever it was that I could.
That's what your old lady's for.
Yeah, exactly. And so we did it. I mean, it's now I look back, it's hilarious. I'm like, what the hell was that? But
so when you got to core block, and core block is this part where the Corps internally picks, they select
primary.
That's a really good way to look at it. We internally select the 5. That's called 5 for Yell. That the Corps has basically nominated to be Yell leaders. And core block is where it all begins. It's you hang out, you meet your classmates. So that's core block, by the way, if you didn't know. Yeah. So were you finally healthy by core block, or were you like
it was iffy.
Struggle?
It was
iffy.
Core block? I wasn't gonna. I mean, obviously, I wasn't gonna, walk around core block socializing, being a politician, and pity me, poor me. I got mono, and I feel like crap while I'm here. But in all reality, it was bad, man. I mean, I was frail. It was dicey, but I think it adds to the fun of it. I look back, I said, it's not like I had to go to work and I was, I needed to get that pay. I needed to show up and have fun and enjoy meeting other people. And I guess that goes back to kind of what I said. You want things to go wrong when they don't count in real life. So you look back and exactly. They matter less. And so that when you, hopefully now, and I pray, I'm obviously, I'm like I said, I'm the youngest old guy now. But I hope that a lot of those lessons through whatever it was in college now can apply to whatever I'm going to face in this next phase of life, because we know it's coming. Well, it's inevitable that something's going to happen.
And that's that's what we always tell you. College is where you go get a degree, but it's also like the degree isn't what you learn in college. Mm-hmm. You learn about obviously you're just becoming an adult realistically, like you're becoming just a whole grown ass person.
We're trying to faking it.
That's fair. But you're learning life skills, and you're learning, and these are the things where you're fortunate. Maybe again, as you look back, it's a lot easier in hindsight. Yeah. You're fortunate that these things occurred because of what you were able to pull away from it and develop yourself. And that wasn't the only medical issue, though, right?
Yeah, You put me on my good side today. I got the earthworm on the side of my head over here.
It's not an actual earthworm.
No, I had a tumor.
So I mean, where did this?
That was also another just. And I look back, and that's why I say I'm just like so thankful for the way that my junior year went, right? So like leading up to my junior year, I get elected February of my sophomore year. So the world's normal. Preface that. The world's normal. We have a huge party.
No shutdowns yet.
We all, go out to the chicken after we get elected. My dad's with me. It's awesome.
Got your ice cream.
Exactly. And you're thinking, exactly, my root beer float. And so you're thinking.
I got a beer as a junior yell leader.
Yeah, and I couldn't. Yeah, you also had a 401k as a junior yell leader. And so I look back and I'm like, right, I had dreamt of this. You mentioned it. I wanted this moment. It's going to be awesome. And before you know it, the world shuts down and they find a tumor in my pituitary gland on the left side of my neck, lodged between
right at the jawbone
my jawbone and my skull, essentially. So right under my earlobe, if you can imagine, there was a golf ball that we found, and we would not have found if I didn't go home for COVID. Or I didn't go home for spring break. So spring break is when the world shut down.
Right.
I was going to go on a spring break trip to Florida with all my buddies, and build sandcastles, of course.
Like when they tiny
just
little
hang out.
These tiny little
That's
pods
it.
of
We were just
turds just go take over towns.
We were just going to hang out and read on the beach. And my dad was like, dude, you need to come home because this is going to be the last spring break or last opportunity you can come home for a while. Because you're going to be so busy over the summer and then the fall's going to roll around. We don't know when you're going to come home. Come home, hang out with us, see your grandparents before you're just super busy.
We have like 5,000
Exactly. So I say, okay,
Absolutely.
yes, sir, it's a good point. I'll go home. I go home for spring break, and it's a spring break that never ended.
Right.
And while I'm home, I'm growing this, this nasty mustache. Everybody, because you can, and I'm in the Corps, and I haven't had facial hair. And I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't even know that I could grow a mustache, because the last time I, let my facial hair grow was when I was 15 in high school. I'm like,
I couldn't.
Exactly. So I'm sitting at home. Finally, my dad is also, he was in the Corps, and he's a no BS. He runs a tight ship. He's an awesome dude. He is my hero in all reality. But he runs a tight ship.
This is another part of, as you get older, you realize that instead of your dad being a total jerk.
Yeah, he's actually the coolest dude you know. And he's like your best friend.
Yeah.
He's got your back more than anybody, and I'm lucky that my dad truly is all that. And so my dad, we're in the backyard hanging out, and he's like, dude, go upstairs. I can't take this anymore. You've been in my house for a week, and you have this squirrel on your lip. Go upstairs and shave. You're going to be in my house. You live by my rules. Like, get out of him. And you're not like actually mad. I'm like, okay, yes, sir. I go upstairs, and I'm lathering shaving cream on my face, and I rub my left hand over my neck, around this area to get ready to shave. And that's weird.
Because you haven't shaved in so long, you realize that you probably didn't need to shave.
Exactly. Yeah, I was like, wow, this is good. So I'm getting ready. So
this is fun. I can't wait to shave.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I'm like, man, what is that? That's weird.
Yeah.
And so whenever I finish shaving, go downstairs, and my dad's on FaceTime with our good family friend, who's also our doctor, who's an Aggie as well. And it weirded me out. I had swollen lymph nodes before when you get a cold and you get sick, and I'm like.
But nothing quite like that.
It's kind of in a weird spot. It's kind of funky.
You do the symmetry thing.
Yeah, and I'm like, this doesn't add up. And I start looking. I'm like, dang, my ear is kind of in a position that is. It was altering. No joke. It was altering the structure of my face.
Oh wow.
And so I go downstairs coincidentally, and not coincidentally, by the grace of God, right away there's a doctor on FaceTime, and I'm like, hey, this is really weird. And I'm telling my dad, and they're like, oh, it is weird, but you always got something. So the doctor's like, hey, take ibuprofen for a week.
Was he an army doctor?
No, well,
Motrin and water.
Well, he was basically saying if it starts to go down a little bit,
then we'll know.
It's nothing to worry about. It might be a lymph node, but if it doesn't, call me. So you fast forward a week, now COVID's even more in a lockdown.
Right.
So my initial doctor's visit for this tumor was in the passenger seat of my dad's truck with the window down, a mask on. He came out of his house, went up to me, kind of, looked at it, touched it, and was like, yeah, that's not right. You need to get a specialist, ear, nose, and throat specialist. And so went to an ear, nose, and throat specialist that was not, worth a damn in Laredo. Thankfully, we got out of there and we went to an ear, nose, and throat specialist in San Antonio, Dr. Nathan Hales, also an Aggie. And so he just put me at ease. He was like, hey, this is like the 7th one I see today. you're going to be good. I know you're a yell leader. We're going to try not to, make you any uglier than you already are. And he helped me out, and we got it taken care of. But it was a scary time for sure, because like I said, you go through thinking, oh, it's going to be this, right? I got junior yell. It's going to be all this that I've looked up to my whole life. And within 3 months, it's nothing that you expected. You got
completely
56 stitches on the side of your head and a tube coming out of the back of your head, and
you're stuck at home.
And you're stuck at home, and you get dropped off for surgery. That was the craziest part. Nobody could go into these. No joke. It was like summer camp. Pulled up to the hospital,
kick you out,
and I had a backpack. And Dad was like, "All right, dude, I'll pick you up tomorrow.
Don't forget to write."
Yeah, I was like, so it was crazy. But again, I go back, and I'm so thankful that it was that way my junior year. I learned so much through that. I think it helped me a lot leading the group my senior year. I think it helped me a lot. Appreciating my senior year. And just having so much more perspective and maturity with what the position is and what your job is after going through that year.
Absolutely. Going to go a little bit different.
Yeah.
There
are other things to my life than yell, which you know how it is.
No, absolutely. But it's a huge part.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right. Especially at this age. Not all there has been.
Well, yeah, in 2 years of your life is a much larger percentage of yours than it was for me.
Yeah.
But I think it's important that we point this out, because I don't know that everybody knows this necessarily. But you had a great relationship with the commandant at the time, Joe Ramirez.
Yes.
General Ramirez.
Yeah.
But who I've had a wonderful relationship as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's important maybe to note, we don't have to dive into this, but from what I could tell, it seemed like he was a pretty good mentor to you, because you are, and I know that this, again, being a yell leader doesn't define you, but you were the first Hispanic head yell leader, right? And so can you talk a little bit about that relationship that you had with Joe Ramirez and how maybe he gave you a more adult perspective on how to approach being the first Hispanic yell leader?
Yeah.
Head yell leader.
No, absolutely, yeah. And so the first time I ever met General Ramirez was my...
He's retired. I think you can call him Joe now.
Yeah, but I can't.
He won't.
Yeah. I'll start calling him Theo before I start calling him General. Before I stop calling him General Ramirez. But anyway, so I met him my sixth grade year in Laredo. He was doing a recruiting trip down there, and my dad
brought you to meet
of course. And now I look back, I'm like, that was totally scripted. But he was like, "Oh, you're just gonna go listen. He's awesome. He's gonna give you a motivational speech." And he is a hell of a public speaker. We know he is. He will fire you up. You'll be ready to run through a brick wall.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
so we go, and it's awesome. He's rah. He's awesome. And so I go, and I'm like, wow, all right, I'm joining the Corps, and this General Ramirez guy is awesome. But total brainwashing step in the grand scheme of my father's plan. Exactly. And so fast forward a couple years, I'm a fish, and I see him come out for the first fish brief or whatever in FOW, and I'm like, no shot he remembers me. And so I see him, and I get it. The guy meets a bajillion people. I'm not expecting him to remember, whatever. Memo Salinas from Laredo.
Little did you know that you'd come to a point in life where you would meet a bajillion people.
Well, yeah. Something like that. And so I see him on the quad, and I run up as a fish, which is totally, it's a rarity. And I go up to him, I'm like, "General Ramirez, it's Memo Salinas. You spoke to me when I was in 6th grade, St. Aug High School in Laredo, Texas. Blah, 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 blah." He probably just faked it, being like, "Oh, yeah, I remember you," as one does. But, fast forward a couple of...
But Fish Salinas was like, he remembered.
Yeah, he remembered me, exactly. and I for sure called home, and I'm like, "Hey, he remembers me." No way. But, and so then you fast forward to, hey, then you get core block, and you're meeting with the commandant and whatnot, and we start talking, and he starts truly remembering me, and people from Laredo are reaching out to him, telling him, "Hey, that's our boy from Laredo." And so I remember getting elected, and he calls me into his office alone. Not the rest of the yell leaders. I'm guessing, "Oh, okay, cool." Well, actually not cool. I said, "What the hell did I do? It's day 2. Why is the commandant already calling me?" I'm a sophomore, so I'm like, did I scream at a fit? What did I do that is causing I'm in trouble.
I'm already being fired.
Yeah, I'm like, what did I do?
I've never worn whites.
So I get called in, and I've never been in his office, just him and I, and I'm sitting there, and he's, "Hey, how's this? How's class? How's your parents?" He always says, "¿Cómo está la familia?" Always. That's like his go-to. How's the family? Every time. And so I'm like, good, but kind of like, dude, why the hell am I here, man? Like, what do you... And
But you can't be like, can you get to the
yeah,
point?
and so finally he's like, so, and I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of nervous. Like, what's going on? No, I just wanted to congratulate you, and I wanted to tell you that if you F this up, I will kick your ass before anybody else will. He goes, he's like, I don't know if you know this, but you're the first Hispanic Head Yell Leader, which I did not know. I did not know that prior until he basically told me, and I was like, oh, wow, cool. And he was like, whether you realize it or not, this is a big deal to a lot of other people. If it's not, the biggest deal to you, you represent a lot, and you're going to have a target on your back. And if you mess this up, there's people that want you to mess it up, and there's you will forever be tied to that as well.
Right.
So take this serious because yes, it's awesome, and yes, you represent Texas A&M and so much, but you are now representing some people that are very
more than just
and so he was like.
Yeah.
You got a big responsibility. If you jack it up, dude, I'm coming for you. And so I remember sitting there getting out. You got it? Yes, sir. All right, get out. So I walked out, and I remember the walk back from the trigon to the quad, just thinking, shit, you better not mess this up, dude.
Yeah.
The commandant just called you in, and I like to think that I didn't. I think I'm proud of the work I did, and him and I still have a great relationship. And just having somebody like that who is, when you're a sophomore, you're 19, 20 years old, and you got somebody who's here, right? And you're here.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And you got somebody like that, texting you, calling you, checking in on you. When I was in the hospital, one of the first people to reach out to me, send my family flower, just a gesture that is it going to help me feel better? Probably not, but just knowing that somebody like that is in your corner and has your back, means the world. Until this day, I'm supposed to go on a trip with them. October 14th, we're going to go do a little watch party down in McAllen. But it's amazing to see student leaders and young adults are only as powerful as people make them, as powerful as somebody entrusts them and pushes them and encourages them and believes in them.
Right.
And he has been
there,
monumental for where and what I am right now and what I've been able to do.
Yeah.
And
it's fantastic just to have a great family in your corner, but sometimes having somebody not family, like Memo Vela as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, I'm going to wrap this up a little bit. What's your next step?
Yeah,
Law school.
So I'm right now.
You were agribusiness.
I was an ag business, an economics guy, and right now I'm working for the A&M system, and I'm enjoying that. Chancellor Sharp is, I think, on the Mount Rushmore of Texas A&M. I'm just going to take a little quick moment to add that. I think as Aggies we talk about Lawrence Sullivan Ross, we talk about General Rudder, we talk about leaders like that who have paved and forever changed the trajectory of Texas A&M. I think Chancellor Sharp's going to be on that list. I think he'll be somebody that my kids will come back to Texas A&M and hear about and talk about and say, hey, Dad, what was Chancellor Sharp like?
Yeah.
I think he's the next on that list, and so it's cool to work for him. It's a blessing. I appreciate him. You talk about somebody else who's been empowering and somebody else who's believed in me and helped me.
Right.
Chancellor Sharp is at the top of that list as well, and so it's been a good experience.
But it's still a means to an end to go to law school.
Correct, and so that was part of the hiring process. He wanted me to work for him, knowing that
you were prepping to.
He knew, all right, you want to go to law school, study for the LSAT. And in the meantime, you can work for me, and when it comes time to go to law school, go to law school. And so I'm doing that right now, and just trying to figure out.
We shall see, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
So,
all right. You're young, so I don't even know if I'm going to ask this question, but I suppose I have to because I ask all my guests this.
Yeah.
Because you're a new homeowner.
I am, as of a month ago.
Which means you have a patio, which in theory means you have a grill.
Correct.
Okay.
Always.
You're having
probably the first thing I put in my house.
Yeah, so you're having put it outside your house. Don't put it in your house. That's not.
You can do it like an Aggie and put it in your house.
So you got dignitaries coming over. You've got to make ribs, right? And so you got to knock somebody's socks off with this, maybe, and or like maybe the guy that's going to decide if you're going to law school. Bribe him with ribs. Yeah. What's your go-to recipe? How do you do it? And if there's some of it's secret, you don't have to share it.
No, you see, I would be a liar if I sat up here and act like some.
Can you cook?
Absolutely. Everybody believes they can cook, but in all reality, I do think I'm a decent cook. My sample size and my expertise are minimal because of my time in the Corps. We don't cook in college, so everything that I've learned as of right now is of the past
cooks
year
and Duncan. Oh no.
Yeah, the cooks and Duncan, which we're not gonna go there. But My father is a big time cook,
Well,
and so I go home and he helps a lot.
If you had to bring a side, what do you bring? Like, what's your favorite side to bring to barbecue?
Mac and cheese,
Nice.
but real mac and cheese. I'm not. You got
Actual
homemade,
cheese.
like
Actual
real.
cheese.
I
Melted
put some
cheese.
heart and
That's
soul
fair.
into this. I grated cheese. To
Well,
make this mac and cheese.
here's your first tip on some expertise. Smoke the cheese.
Smoke the cheese.
Yep, there you go.
There you go.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up here, Memo.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
appreciate
Thanks for
you
having
coming,
me,
brother.
dude.
Always great
Appreciate
to see
it.
you.
Always good to see
So
you.
again, coming from Cooper's Aggieland, thank y'all so much for kind of joining us down this little memory lane trip, being a Yell Leaders. And we will see y'all next time, Gig.
Thank you.